Welcome to Election Night Day 3. We're here in the Center for Media Innovation at Point Park University in downtown Pittsburgh for your continuing coverage.
News is coming out of those states that are left undeclared in the presidential race, including new dates and extensions to account for outstanding mail-in ballots.
And with these races tightening up, the incumbents campaign has filed lawsuits against a state that has already wrapped up their race and two that haven't. We'll break down what's coming up in all of those states.
This is Watch History Happen Election Night 2020, continuing coverage.
Live from the Center for Media Innovation on the campus of Point Park University in downtown Pittsburgh, this is Watch History Happen 2020 with Taylor Spirito and Marley Pinshaw.
Welcome everyone to Watch History Happen Election Night 2020, continuing coverage. I'm Taylor Spirito.
And I'm Colin the Bias filling in for Marley tonight. Updates are rolling out out of 6 states, that have yet to declare a winner, along with our own home of Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Alaska. All are remaining gray on the election map. Nevada and Pennsylvania and Georgia held press conferences today with updates, and we'll tell you about those momentarily.
Both candidates' electoral vote count remains the same, with the incumbent President Donald Trump at 214 and former Vice President Joe Biden at 253. Let's look at the states that will lead either candidate to that coveted 270. Now, Colton, like we said, there's 6 states that have left to be accounted for, and they're the same as last night. And more votes are just continuing to come in, different races tightening up. Arizona, Donald Trump is gaining a quick lead on the former Vice President Joe Biden. Currently in Arizona, it is 50.4% to Joe Biden and 48.2% to Donald Trump, and that is according to the New York Times. So they are running a very tight race, a very key state for either parties, either candidates to win with their electoral college votes. Again, AP and Fox News, have Biden as the winner of that, but they've had him as the winner of that state since election night 2 nights ago.
Yeah, that's right, Taylor. And it does beg the question that did Fox News and AP call Arizona early? Because as you mentioned, Trump is gaining ground in Arizona, and this could be a pivotal state for the president for his case in re-election, because if he gets Arizona and if he also holds on to Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, we will see the president for another 4 years.
Another state that is on the up and up here is Nevada. Now, Nevada stopped their ballot counting yesterday, I should say, around 2 p.m. their time, and have resumed today with a press conference at noon to give an update on when those results were going to be in. So they're at 89% reporting, and it looks like Joe Biden still has a pretty solid lead of 49.4%, whereas Donald Trump, the incumbent, is sitting at 48.5%, about a 10,000, 12,000 vote lead for Biden, as he needs that state along with Arizona in order to hit 270 right on the dot and become the next president. But there are still many states that are leaning toward President Trump, right, Colton?
Yeah, that's right, Taylor. And those 4 states are Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Alaska at the moment. Now, it is most likely that Alaska is going to go to President Trump, because only a 58% of the vote is counted there, but Trump does have over a 30% lead over the vice president. However, Pennsylvania and Georgia are different stories, as Biden has been catching up to President Trump all day. We heard reports that Pennsylvania could be done by the night, I should say, but we'll see how that's going to turn out. And also, with Georgia, it is so close with Georgia because the vice president is only down by under 10,000 votes.
Absolutely. Georgia is going to be one of those to keep an eye out for. There were reports that Arizona and Georgia would be seeing results by the end of the night. That's not confirmed nor denied by us, but those are going to be the 2 states to really keep an eye out for. Pennsylvania, another one of those to keep an eye out for to have results. It was rumored that it would be by tonight, but it's going to be looking like it will be tomorrow. But it's anyone's game at this point, and we'll keep you updated on these results as they come in tonight and throughout the week.
And when we come back, we'll be discussing our own state of Pennsylvania status on their own projected winner, as well as some updates on key Senate races around the country. Stay tuned.
Hey man, what's up?
Hey, dude.
I see you're still smoking. You know smoking helps you age faster, right?
Nah, that's only a myth. Do I really look that old?
Hey man, what's up?
Hey, dude.
I see you're still smoking. You know smoking helps you age faster, right?
Nah, that's only a myth. Do I really look that old?
You're watching History Happen here on Election Night 2020, but of course, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, you can ask us questions on our hashtag Point Park Votes on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we'll be answering them throughout the night.
Welcome back. We've been following some key races around the country as the results start to pour in, so let's take a look at those now. And we are first going to start off with Michigan, as that race has been called, as Democrat Gary Peters will be declared the winner with 49.8% of the vote, and his challenger, John James, with a close race, got 48.3% of the vote. And there are currently 3 races that still have not been called yet, which are in North Carolina, Georgia, and Alaska.
Now, those races, except for Alaska, are fairly close, but as we see from Alaska with the presidential race, they are not counting absentee or mail-in ballots until next week. So that race, while not close, still has those votes to be accounted for, whereas in Georgia and North Carolina, those races see each of the opponents with each other within 2%. So those races are too close to call right now. And right now, the Republicans remain in control of the Senate, with 48 seats, and then the Democrats have 46. With 2 other, they need 51 to take the Senate. So those 3 races are going to be very key going forward for the Republicans. And then in the House of Representatives, we see that the Democrats have retained control of that. And going back to the Senate before the election, the Republicans had 53 seats, clear control of the Senate, as we know, and the Democrats had 45 seats in the Senate filled. Independent had 2. So all of these races, like I said, very important to keep an eye out for. Alaska will be seeing results by next week, but North Carolina and Georgia very close to the wire on those.
And not to mention, Taylor, they are both incumbents and they're both Republicans. As we start with North Carolina, we got Thom Tillis, who is currently has 48.73% of the vote, and then his challenger, Cal Cunningham, has 46.94%. And then moving down a little bit more south to Georgia, the incumbent, David Perdue, has 49.95% of the vote, and then his challenger, Jon Ossoff, has 47.74% of the vote. So these races, as like in both in Georgia and North Carolina with the presidential race, these 2 races are going to come down to the wire.
Reminds me of Michigan in a sense. Michigan was very much a gray area with their Senate race and their presidential race, and then both were called last night. The Senate race late last night after we were off the air, Michigan's presidential race, right before we came on the air. So those are 2 races, North Carolina and Georgia, to look out for. But we want to move over back home. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is a key battleground state to win in any election, and 2020 is no different. PA's 20 electoral college votes are considered essential for the Trump campaign, as if Biden wins the Keystone State, he wins the election. So let's talk about our home, Colton.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's right, Taylor. We are, as you just mentioned before we went to break, we're most likely not going to get a result from Pennsylvania tonight, but Biden is catching up to President Trump with all of those mail-in ballots, which usually go to the side of the Democrats. Excuse me.
Pennsylvania has 93% reporting for the Commonwealth. President Trump currently sits at, 49.9%. That's just updated from the New York Times, with 3,260,796 votes, whereas challenger Joe Biden has 48.8% of the votes with 3,185,369 of those votes. Now, that's up just a little bit from right before we went off the air. That is about a 4,000 vote difference given to former Vice President Biden, again, with 93% of the vote remaining in the state of Pennsylvania, a key battleground state that we somewhat discounted last time we went on the air, and now it's coming back, making a resurgence. Pennsylvania is going to be a key battleground for these two candidates.
Yeah. Sorry, Taylor, and that is right, because because we went from knowing that Biden won Arizona, so if he holds on to Nevada, we can maybe see the election by noon, knowing that Nevada was going to start counting votes, but since Trump is catching up in Arizona, that's not the case anymore. So we're going back to Pennsylvania right here to see our state could decide this election.
And Pennsylvania is seeing the closest margin of votes from this election that we've seen. Right before I went on the air, it was 78,314. Now it's sitting at approximately 75,000 votes between the incumbent and his challenger. It was about 100,000, a little bit above that this morning. So former Vice President Biden is making not a quick comeback, but a comeback in the Keystone State. That was something he's going to have to keep an eye on. And right before we went on the air, there were 326,000 mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania left to be recorded, according to a top Pennsylvania election official, and that's per the New York Times. And some key counties to look out for here, just looking at the state of Pennsylvania, you see some key blue areas, some key red areas. Let's talk about those a little bit.
Yeah, sure, Taylor, as we got Philadelphia County, obviously, out on the other side of our state. In Philadelphia, they have a lot of mail-in ballots left, and then also right here in Allegheny County, they halted counting their votes until tomorrow. So we'll see how things are going to turn out there. And Taylor, you should set it off. And Taylor, I want you to talk about your home county of Erie.
Well, real quick, I do want to say that in Allegheny County, it's about 36,000 of those mail-in ballots that are left to be counted. Again, halted until tomorrow. But yeah, I want to talk about Erie County real quick. A state that was famously, or a county, that was famously flipped red last election with Donald Trump. Currently, they are sitting very, very light red. Donald Trump is currently leading 49.4% of the vote, whereas Vice President Biden has 48.9% of the vote. About a 542 vote difference. Now, right before we came on the air, CNN did report that Biden jumped ahead in the polls to 48 votes ahead. That was as of 6:08 today. Now, that's about 3,000 left, mail-in ballots, left to count. On CNN's political map right now, it has not been updated, so we cannot confirm if that is the case, and Biden is ahead of Trump in Erie County. But that is something that we're going to be keeping a close eye on as we move forward. Erie County has historically gone with the state of Pennsylvania on their vote, so it's going to be interesting to see what Erie County does going forward and how Pennsylvania is going to fold after this.
And also, Taylor, there are only two counties left that are at that light blue, one which is Erie, and then we have Monroe County that is out in Allentown. So we'll see, because Taylor, your home county could really decide where Pennsylvania goes in this election, along with those states that still need to be counted.
Absolutely. I remember seeing right before the election a New York Times article about the 20 key counties that could make or break this election for either candidate. 4 located within the battleground of Pennsylvania: Chester County, Philadelphia County, like we mentioned, Westmoreland County, right to the east of us, and Erie County. So Philadelphia County, Erie County, we've got our eyes on you, and we're going to see, continue to follow what these counties do as we move forward.
And so when we come back, we'll give you an update on Pittsburgh's congressional seat and the rest of these districts, as we're keeping an eye out on last night.
watching history happen here on Election Night 2020. But of course, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, you can ask us questions on our hashtag PointParkVotes on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and we'll be answering them throughout the night.
Welcome back. We've been following the congressional race for Pennsylvania District 17 between Democratic incumbent Connor Lamb and Republican challenger Sean Parnell. We have the updates to that race now, but first we want to break that Erie County in Pennsylvania just officially turned blue. Per CNN, Joe Biden has a lead of 49.8% of the votes with 66,966, whereas the incumbent Donald Trump has 48.8% of the county with 65,647 of the votes. Now, again, this is a big race to watch out for as these mail-in ballots continue to be counted, and it's going to be interesting to see how Pennsylvania goes.
Yeah, that's right, Taylor. And also, the Associated Press has not called Erie for Vice President Biden yet, but we will have to see if they will follow CNN and the New York Times and see if they do.
CNN, the New York Times, and ABC. So let's talk about other races that are happening in Pennsylvania. Sean Parnell and Connor Lamb. So right now, let me pull up another document real quick. There we go. Connor Lamb has a 50.5% total of the votes, whereas Sean Parnell is sitting at 49.5%. Now, this is with 92% of the vote total counted for. Sean Parnell came out to a really strong lead ahead of the incumbent, and now the incumbent, Connor Lamb, has taken the lead with about 4,500 of difference of votes.
And also, Connor Lamb declared victory last night, even though Mr. Parnell did not succeed, as a shock to, I think, most people, knowing that this still is a tight race and Parnell is still in the game.
Yeah, Sean Parnell has not conceded the race yet, although Connor Lamb has declared victory. Now, Colton, I know that you feel very strongly about this race. Let's talk about it.
Oh, yeah. Of course, Taylor. Yeah, so, I mean, was it a good idea for Lamb to come out early? Because the results could flip to Mr. Parnell, knowing that this race has been competitive from the start because you have like those areas like Cranberry and then some parts of Penn Hills that is like some are more liberal but some are more conservative. So we knew that this race was going to be tight going in, as also both of them are veterans. Sean Parnell was a officer in the Army in Iraq, and Lamb is Lamb was a Marine. Excuse me. So both with military backgrounds with them, and also Connor Lamb won this in a special election by not a wide margin either. Excuse me.
Yeah, a very close race that we're going to continue to follow, see if Lamb can build up his lead, see if Parnell concedes, see if Parnell takes the race back. And real quick, we just want to say that there are still some seats that have left to be called. In the House of Representatives for Pennsylvania, we're still looking at District 7, 8, 10, and our very own 17 here that have not been called yet, too close to call. Whereas in the Senate, we have Districts 9, 11, 15, and 48 that are yet to be called.
Yeah, that's right, Taylor. Now, as the election results unfold, there are multiple stories from multiple sites coming out about counting every vote versus stopping the count.
Voting is important, and the Point Park News Service's Zoe Angelucci spoke with members of the Pittsburgh community about voting with the COVID-19 pandemic numbers on the rise.
I'm going to be going home to my hometown where I was registered when I was 18 and voting in person.
This election, I'm going to be voting via mail-in ballot. I just decided it was easier that way than just going in. No, I never considered voting in person. I thought since Allegheny County already has kind of a spike in cases that it'd be safer for me to do it from home.
I did not think of mailing in my ballot, and the reason for that is come November, there are going to be certain results that certain people aren't happy with, and there's going to be uneasiness, there's going to be fraud claims, so I would rather just have my vote secure. Personally, I don't have any concerns going into this election because I'm going back to my hometown where I was registered when I was 18, and it's a very small town, and the voting, I've voted I think twice there now, and I've barely ever seen any other people besides the people working the polls, so it doesn't freak me out as much as if I were voting here in downtown and having to wait with like 100 people for 3 hours.
I think my concern with the whole COVID aspect is that people aren't going to be wearing masks as often when they're going in to vote. So like I said, with the spike, it could increase it. A lot of people in Allegheny County do wear their mask, but they also don't, so it could fluctuate a little bit.
All right, a great report from Zoe. Now, Colton, we both, I mailed my vote in.
So did I, Taylor.
So I didn't get to go and see how the polling in person actually went down. I would have liked to amid COVID, or not amid COVID, I should say, especially in my first presidential election, your first presidential election. We are just college students after all. But I would have loved to see how the polls were working and gotten my sticker. I didn't get a sticker in the mail.
Yeah, me neither, Taylor. I mean, I really did want to vote in person, but because of the election show that all you folks saw at home Tuesday night, I was like, I just didn't think it was a good idea. Well, it kind of wasn't me. It was my mother, who I know was watching. So I wanted the vote in person because my polling place is only like 2 minutes from my house, but instead, I requested a ballot and I filled it out. And actually, the Westmoreland County Community College was actually having a drop-off. So just 30 seconds, I went in, dropped my ballot off, and I was on my way. I think I called a Point Park soccer game right before.
All right. So we may have voted by mail, but hundreds of Pittsburgh residents pulled up to the polls to cast their votes in person. UVU's Nick Konopka was there for an inside look.
Pandemic, Allegheny County really pushed mail-in ballots this year, even going so far as to sending applications to everyone in the county. Despite that, people still made their way over to PPG Paints Arena this year to cast their ballot.
Even though the country is experiencing a third surge of the coronavirus pandemic, some voters still feel that it is important to vote in person in this historic election.
You know, I received the ballot in the mail kind of late, and I wanted to make sure my vote got counted today, not 2 or 3 days from now, or the system has a way of making things disappear if you don't do it the right way. And I thought it was very important. All my life since I've been able to vote, I've done it in person. So my wife, my son, and myself, we decided to come up and voice our opinion, which is the way it's supposed to be in a democracy.
To help support the voters waiting here in the lines for the polls, the Big Black Grill has partnered with the World Central Kitchen here in Pittsburgh to provide free meals to anyone who's come to decide to vote.
We're going to be here all day, so we're here tonight hoping we'll have dinners for when people get off work, and if the lines are long, we'll be able to provide food if they're just for sustenance and to encourage people to stay.
When we arrived around lunchtime, voters could walk right in without waiting in line, but that was not the case earlier in the morning.
Yeah, the lines, I would say, they reached around the block earlier this morning. I think the longest wait I heard was around an hour and a half. Okay. But people stayed for the most part. I mean, we had a few people leave, but for the most part, people stayed and the mood was good.
Although the lines look sparse at the moment, volunteers do say they expect a larger turnout around 5 p.m. tonight once the workday ends. And they do say that the polls will close at 8 p.m. tonight. Reporting from PPG Paints Arena, this has been Nick Konopka with Watch History Happen 2020.
Now we want to update you on some final results. Let's get to these numbers just real quickly before we wrap things up, Colton.
Yeah, that's right, Taylor. So, as my map is actually having some technical difficulties here with the Point Park Wi-Fi. Thank you, Taylor.
So Pennsylvania right now, the incumbent President Trump is up 49.9% as compared to former Vice President Biden's 48.8%. North Carolina still sitting in the incumbent President Trump at 50% even. Joe Biden sits at 48.6%. Georgia, another one that we're really looking out for. This is per the New York Times. There is a 0.2 difference between the two. Donald Trump sits with 49.5% of the votes. Biden has 49.3%. There is about a 9,000 vote difference there. One to really, really keep an eye out for.
Oh, sorry, Taylor. Were you going to say something?
Here, I got it.
Oh, thank you.
In Arizona, we've got former Vice President Biden up 50.4%. Donald Trump sits at 48.2%. Nevada, another one we're keeping a close eye on with their 6 electoral votes. That is 49.4% for Joe Biden, Donald Trump 48.5%. And Alaska is going to be sitting comfortably at 62.9% Donald Trump, 33% Joe Biden, and that's going to be sitting there until approximately next week.
Yeah, that's right, Taylor.
So that's all the time that we have for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in.
We will be continuing Watch History Happen 2020 as we continue our election coverage right here tomorrow at 6 p.m. Until then, I'm Colton the Bias.
And I'm Taylor Spirito. Have a good night, everyone.